Hello, this is Pinlin. Welcome to my class about the journey of stylized art, story-driven character, and environment building. I'll be your instructor. In this video, I'm going to talk about myself, my work, and a bit about the upcoming chapters. I started drawing ever since I could hold a pencil. I think it's something that everyone does at school. During elementary class, we always had moments where we could draw freely. At the time, drawing was more like a way to pass time. I didn't particularly like it or dislike it. I rather drew than doing all the physical activities. As I grew older, I got into anime. Back then, they were often streamed on TV. I would draw my favorite characters from the TV shows I watched. After getting middle school, I stopped watching because school took most of my time, so I didn't have time for drawing too. At some point, a friend introduced me to drawing tablets. It got me quite curious about digital art. I bought my very first tablet, the Wacom Bamboo. It was very difficult to draw on it because I didn't know how the tablet works and I just scribbled random doodles. It was not quite as I expected, so I rather used traditional tools for drawing. A few years later, I discovered an online community called DeviantArt. It was an online platform where a lot of artists would post their works and engage with other people who had similar interests. So this was my profile back in the days. My account was only 1 year old. Because of this community, I got more motivated to draw more digitally. There are so many great artists on this platform that inspired me to work harder on my own works. There are so many amazing artists on this platform that made me want to improve my own work. The platform changed a lot throughout the years. This is a screenshot of how my account looks like currently. I haven't been active for several years already, ever since the platform changed. During my time there, I had a lot of fun creating my original characters and talking with other people about my art. After DeviantArt, I started moving to other social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Thanks to DeviantArt, I got introduced in the world of doing requests, projects, and commissions. I went to an art school, but I will still consider myself as self-taught. During my student years, honestly, I didn't learn anything that would help improve my art skills. I was majoring in animation, and prior I tried game development for 1 year. What I wanted to learn was concept art, but there was no school at the time yet that would teach me that. I thought if I go to an alternative route, maybe I can specialize in concept art. During the first year, we were taught a bit of everything: how to write stories, philosophy, art history, and much more. Most of the time, it was more about conceptualizing art. Most of the time, it's more about the ideas behind art and not really anything technical, because the teachers taught us to learn that in our free time. So that is exactly what I did. I tried to improve my artwork in my free time. At the time, teachers were not really fond of anime or manga style. I think that is something really common in art schools. That's why the work I made during classes are very different than what I would post online. These are some concepts I made for school projects. I never posted these anywhere because I am not really proud of them. While they do tell a story, In a way, now I look back at them, the themes are pretty dark. During my years in art school, I think I was the most unhappiest of my life because I couldn't do what I really wanted. In a way, I felt really trapped, as if nobody was interested in my work. Regardless of what I did, the teachers never seemed to understand me. And if I wouldn't follow what I was told, I would get bad grades and I wouldn't be able to pass the class. I do want to admit that during my years on art school, I got to improve on drawing more expressive works. I got more conscious about what I wanted to draw and why. Before, I did use symbolism in my artworks, but the storytelling was not as strong. I always enjoyed experimenting with art, but during art school, it felt really forced. As time moved on, I got more busy during school, so I couldn't spend much time working on personal art. It felt like year 2 and 3 actually delayed or downgraded my improvement. I got to experiment a lot, but it felt like I had no goal or any meaning. It was just drawing whatever that felt like having a meaning. It just felt like drawing whatever and then add a meaning to it. Since most of my schoolwork is very sketchy, I got more confident drawing in a more loose way in personal works. If you zoom in close in this aquarium illustration, you see that I left a lot of parts very sketchy. I realized that this style actually really works well, so I kept drawing this way. I would say that going to an art school didn't help me technically, but I slowly grew to understand my preferences. Now you probably wonder why didn't I just quit if I didn't art like. Now you probably wonder why didn't I just quit if I don't like art school? Well, at the time I felt getting a degree is good on my portfolio, so I thought just sit through the end. Although in the end I spent more time than I should have because I resit the third year twice. I was really stubborn and did what I wanted, but the teachers were not approving of it. In the end, I just gave up and did as I was told, and then everything went smoothly and I passed the classes. It felt like a relief after graduation, so I could finally do what I always wanted. During college years, I already did a bit of freelance work, so I built a portfolio. During college, I already did some freelance work, so I built a portfolio outside school. It was a really smart move because if you only build a portfolio after college, it means that you have to start from scratch. In my free time, I spend a lot of effort to work on my own projects. One of them is my visual novel. It was one of my drive to keep drawing because I really enjoy telling original stories. This is the main character of my visual novel. My art style changed a bit during the years of development, so I had to redraw a lot of art. The game is fully released on Steam, but I'm going to add an expansion. Since so much time passed by since the release, I wanted to update the sprite works. That was the style from back then, and that is my current. As time goes by, my taste and preferences change, and even from today on, I think my style and taste will keep changing. I don't think I will ever be satisfied with my work because I want to keep discovering new things. On the left, we have one of the very first tests. At the time, the screen window was different. At the time, the screen resolution was a lot smaller. That is a work in progress of my current style. I've been working on this project all by myself, so the graphic design, character design, background art, and the writing is all done by me alone. I like to work alone on this because the style stays consistent. And by style, I mean the background art with the character and also the writing. I have full control over the whole direction. Working on this project taught me a lot, like time management, working, how to draw characters and backgrounds, and of course, telling stories. I realized my weaknesses and how to work on them. Another project of mine is a comic. It's about those two characters. His name is Monogram and her name is Color. I thought I couldn't think of any better name to describe them, so I stuck with this. This character was from a drawing I made many, many years ago. I drew this one that was out of frustration. I couldn't really get grasp of digital art and didn't enjoy what I made. Thinking about it, this artwork is quite edgy. And years later, I made this artwork, and that's how Color was born. At the same time, this artwork was also made out of frustration. I didn't know how to get to my goals. I wish that inspiration would just hover over me and get me out of the art block. Color, it's a character design I normally wouldn't draw. I really don't like using very saturated colors, especially like this. I really enjoy to blend colors in a painty style too. Well, in this case, it's just blobs of color. I thought that people wouldn't like this drawing because it's not my usual style, but thankfully I got a lot of positive comments. Many people could resonate with my struggles. I used this illustration as a base for my comic Monogram meets Color. All of the chapters are available on Webtoon, so you can freely read it. My goal for this webtoon was to draw characters more consistently. I noticed that I struggled drawing the same character over and over, especially the face. Whenever I would draw them, they would seem looking a bit different. I felt that creating a comic, it helps me to draw more consistently. The whole comic, about 4 chapters, is done within 2 months. I drew all of the backgrounds on paper because it's somehow makes my workflow faster. Besides, most of it is colored in black and white anyway. And I drew the characters digitally on top. Here are the original scans or photos of the background art. I simply set the layer to multiply and color under it. Somehow draw backgrounds much more faster on paper because I don't have to think about going back or erase. Just whatever line I set, it's the final. The comic is not finished yet. I still want to draw an epilogue, but whenever I have time, because drawing comics is a lot of work. I noticed that this project drained a lot of my energy. I couldn't really focus on anything else. These days, I still like drawing those two characters because the designs are very easy and I like to tell stories with them. And now onward to the class curriculum. In the next section, I'm going to talk about planning. I think this is one of the most important parts that a lot of people underestimate. I'll share tools that help with your workflow. Then I talk about art style. As someone who likes to experiment and draw a lot of themes, I want to share my thoughts on this topic. There are many ways to gather inspiration, and I will share some of my favorite methods. After that, we'll finally get into drawing. We start with the composition. I'll share my earlier sketches of various drawings and do some demonstrations. Perspective is a separate chapter because the perspective has an own chapter because there's so much to talk about. Aside from background, you have characters in perspective too. Think of drawing the hair or clothes, how to make them look 3D. Then we'll explore the wonders of color. This is one of my favorite topics because I like using a lot of colors in my work. I have been told that my color choices are not always conventional, yet I make them work somehow. I'll share my thought process behind my color schemes. Light and shadow are its own separate topics. Aside from the color, you have to think about contrast and value. In the section about character design, I'll talk about anatomy of the body, then the face anatomy, then the facial anatomy and expressions. This is a very broad topic, so they are going to be in different chapters. Gesture is another topic I want to give special attention to. I really like drawing clothes, so I put that in a different chapter. I really like drawing clothes, so I put that in its own chapter. Well, after I explained all of the theory, we're going into live demonstrations. I will create the original character and the character sheet. We're going to apply all the theory we learned into the artwork. After designing a character, we're moving on to a full illustration. My approach for illustrations is a bit different than character art. Usually, I will consider the background and add more details. I will share my inspiration for backgrounds, how I do the composition and perspective, then filling in the big and small elements, and lastly, rendering the final illustration with a character. The illustration process might be a bit long, so the videos are slightly speed up, but you'll be able to see what I do and I add commentary. The last section is about business in art. I'll share a bit of my day, what I do as a freelancer illustrator. Then I go over a section about creating art products, and finally, art as a professional career. There are more topics I want to talk about, but I couldn't fit them in the chapters. I added them in the Troubleshooter Handbook. Please take a look. I hope you find them helpful. Some of the videos contain an assignment. I'll go over them in more detail in the videos. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope that you will enjoy the content. And always remember, have fun in drawing.